so long I don't have to take a roll call of anybody. We're just going to be able to, so now we're just going to go through the different articles. Is that Sherry?
Okay.
Sherry?
Yeah.
Yep, in the wrong place.
Okay, how many people saw that thing that I posted up there? Yeah.
I only
Did
saw
you
it
say
because I was
that?
specifically looking for it.
Did you say that you were, I'm sorry,
Front of
That's okay.
by the front door?
Yeah.
Wait a minute, I missed that.
They're right there. It's
Oh,
over.
whatever you want.
Oh, I know. You told me.
Right. Jackie did right.
So,
They just did, see, it's like,
Oh, you can't.
Nice
You're not looking
choice.
for it either. I wouldn't.
did you
Yeah.
just tell
they
me?
put signs in the windows.
Yeah.
People go look and they just go right to the end of the line.
Yeah. Yeah.
You ever look at the McDonald's signs when you go to McDonald's? You see what's on sale?
Yeah.
Same thing. It's just blinds.
All right. Why? All right. Let's try to get through this thing. Calling the meeting to order. We'll go through the articles in order. I had Article 1, which is just a unpaid bill article. I move Article 1 is written.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Passes. All right, Article 2, it's the new Schedule A compensation plan for the different grades and steps. I move Article 2 as written.
Second?
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Passes. Article 3, that goes together with the Schedule A, and it talks about where these folks will be now. I move Article 3 is written.
Second?
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Article 4, this is to ratify the collective bargaining agreements with these particular unions.
Were all these settled? I thought you said something wasn't.
I believe you said they were.
Okay.
Let's vote it as written and then by the difference we can re-vote town meeting. I move Article 4 as written.
Second?
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. 4. Article 5, I did put a call in to Fred Russell, I didn't hear back. This is transferring the sum to make infrastructure repairs to different buildings around town.
Yeah.
So I'm going to move Article 5 as written. Any discussion?
I'll second.
And when I hear back from Fred, if there's something different other than just some money to handle all the buildings, we can revote this, but I think we can vote this. So that's going to go ahead. Yeah, we got it. Yep, you got it.
Article 5, and then you see all the items that are in Article 6. Isn't that 185? Wouldn't that be buried in these other maintenance transfers?
I think it was because it was a sale of bonds and bands that made it different than just the free cash stuff. That's my understanding.
That's available funds after they sell. So you're approving that if you want to use it for the town and the town spends it. It's above free cash.
Okay.
It's not included. Now, if we didn't use it, don't know, because it's coming from bonds is a specific item. I think it's like like items, so it's probably in here somewhere. So well, it could be because they can't put it away. It's got to go for something specific.
As you look at the explanation for these different ones, there are things from this town administrator and facility director, superintendent of schools, and facility director, so
He's got a budget.
yeah, so it's different. But let's vote it today, and then if I find out different, then we can go and re-vote it on town meeting. So any further discussion?
Second.
Paul? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstained. All right, moving on to 6, which is a larger one.
That's market item.
Yeah.
We went through all these articles with Mike. And asked some questions. Mike did the first 20. Mark did the first 20. Jeremy,
Yeah, I mean, so in short, it's the use of 2.6 million certified free cash. I think we have over expecting over 5 million, so even with the use of this, we're over the 1% that they want to hold in bands typically. We went through each of these, the major ticket items, which I can sort of preview now. The $250,000 for maintenance town and school, that's typical annual expenditure, is a little lower last year, but it's been documented all the needs. Some of the items like the OPEB, Harbor Metric Grant match, those are obligations we currently have and we can afford it. There are a number in the first 20 that I would categorize as public safety type things, which are within, I mean, like the cable hose for the ROV, fire department ATV, the alert system, these all seem like shark buoys, these all seem like things that are really good to have and are expensive to want it. All these items were put out for 3 different bids, so at least in my review and discussing, like I didn't see any that seemed like inappropriate expenditures or excessive expenditures. So I didn't have any objections.
We did question the 75,000.
We did quite, I mean, we mentioned some of these.
Wait, it's funny because.
The 75,000 is the other thing I actually could recommend for the paint. It seems like a lot to me.
Yeah.
And he sort of he described the process and that they were out to bid.
It's sort of like you quote on a $100 million high school and you go, hey, what's this 15,000 over here? And like the ATV was like $30,000. I'm like, I don't know anything, I don't own an ATV.
Well, that's what I said.
That's
I have no, you tell me an ambulance, like a shark buoy is $30,000, I can't comment on that except that you have processes in place to make sure we're getting good prices.
Yes, I had a couple of questions. The 21 and 22, which were the cruisers and the ambulance supplies, specifically that stuff has been in their operating budget in the past, but this is a little bit different.
Well, I asked about the ambulances. I said, unfortunately, I've never been in there. I was. When my insurance company be charged, like $4,000 or something like that. What I did learn was 65% of the runs were either Medicare or Medicaid, which is capped at $650.
Right, they don't get full coverage.
So it's a losing proposition on 65% of the runs, so that the replenishment is the Band-Aids and everything else. We're going for it.
At one time, the ambulance companies paid for the whole thing, regardless. And then it get cut back. And then when all these towns privatized their fire department, we ended up taking over the ambulance because they were charging us instead of giving us money. It's gone the other way. Can I say something on this stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just to finish on the
Oh, go
ambulance, just so, because there's someone learning experience in this. We have 5, 4 and 1 spare. And that's, I didn't realize we had 5.
It used to be 2. These items in general, if we don't have the cash to pay for it, we don't do it in the spring, because they don't want to borrow a certain amount of money. They go up to the levy limit of the borrowing, so if they're reducing borrowing by, say, $3 million, they will not exceed it. Sometimes they try to reduce it, so they want to pay cash as much as they can, especially if it's not reoccurring. So it goes into this fall and you get free cash certified. That's why you see all this. You won't see as many of these at town meeting. It'll be a little smaller.
At this time,
I think what
Annual time.
yeah, right.
Okay. Other than bonding or borrowing for DPW stuff that's on enterprise. But that's the reason why we've gone this direction. They've changed. It used to be in the spring and house in the fall. A lot of it.
One other question I had, maybe you have to slide more on this thing. All these items, they knew of them in the spring, but it wasn't until August. And I asked the question is, how come all this stuff comes up in the first quarter of the year?
They say that they have a 5-year plan and it keeps getting changed. A lot of stuff never moves on. So they know pretty much what they want. So they'll go up to a department, let's say the fire department, and they'll say, do you really need it? And I can wait till next year. And they'll do things like that. And then the first things get funded, if it's an emergency like ambulance, they'll put it in. That's generally how they do it. And all the decisions are made between Michael and Patrick here. They're pretty much telling the departments what to do.
So I think you answered some of my questions already in this. So you're saying they knew of these
in the spring, they just weren't included in the initial budget because we didn't already have the cash and we couldn't borrow for these things. So now we have the cash, so we're allocating it to these
Right,
items.
but Patrick would know how much cash we're gonna have available.
Sure.
So approximately, we're gonna have this.
That answered a ton of my
The
questions.
other thing that happens, unless it's in a special within the annual, everybody understand that?
Mhm.
So in the springtime, the special and the annual means, the day
You
it's
can't even see
voted.
my lips move when I explain this stuff to you guys. It's very good.
Okay, the day you pass it, you can spend it the next day. On the annual stuff, you can't spend it until July 1st. So by waiting for the special, you're only losing like 3 months. Because you can spend it the day after we pass it, town meeting, on a special.
Yeah, the way Mike was describing it to me was, all these departments have their wish list of things they'd like, and they want to see what the available cash is, and they sort of close the books in the summer, so they have a good sense now that it's not fully certified. That there's like 5 million for cash. Didn't quote that, but.
I can't officially say that.
Right. That's what
And
happens.
so
There's
there's
more articles to discuss
when they get the case.
that are gonna try out for that free cash.
I didn't mean to interrupt, but
No, actually, it's great that you get a lot of
And then the other thing I understood was the school department, 400,000, that's the revenue share element, where if the school department is just entitled by the law, just a certain percentage of the revenue, so with that.
no,
free
no,
cash-
no, no. That's the agreement we made with them.
Okay.
So they don't fight us at town meeting.
Right, so see, that's the agreement, so that 400,000 is pursuant to the agreement.
So sometimes they'll get more, and it will seem not fair, however, they might not fight us on something. Years ago, we used to go to town meeting, and you'd have the factions of the school department, the town side, and we'd have to broker the deal. And it was done purposely, I mean, at that point, because they weren't getting along financially. And then when Michael got involved, Patrick got involved, they decided to go to a formula. They actually started with Rocco, but they went to a formula and they worked it out with the new school superintendent. The people before him didn't play ball. This guy gets more accomplished because he's playing ball. And sometimes you'll see his business manager say things, but he's not the one controlling it, it's the superintendent. And it's been running pretty smooth. Yeah, but it's all in agreement.
Did you move out of this?
Let me see.
No.
Some discussion.
I did question some of the wording, so like, for example, on the shock news, the way it's worded, we do the first on the coast. And I started thinking about that, it's on the east coast, the way the text. And that's not the case, but all those shock news, the shocks for this to work out, okay? That fools that are out there now, they got to wait. You can see it on the phone, but, and the other question I asked, any one of these items, if somebody disagrees with the ready to
Yes.
And it'll happen at town meeting, you know. Tom, you might move the article as written, and then if you've got objections,
Yeah.
and then
So
you find out.
the town moderator will go through each one, he'll go through and say, keep on, human resource expenses, so we go question, and then somebody go through the whole list, and they vote on all the ones that were in question, then they may go back to 5 that people did have questions on.
Can they remove them?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
If they want to increase it, it's hard because Michael said, oh, we got to spend, what do you want to change? What do you want to cut?
Yeah.
That's what happened in the schools, and that's why they have agreements.
Okay, has to balance.
A lot of times the stuff that gets questioned on the budget, it's not because they don't agree with it, they got a question on something else and they think they can get in that discussion with that line item. It might have nothing to do with it.
Everybody familiar with the senior work off program?
Yep. They don't get paid, they do work equal to that.
Well, it
You should get some
reduces their tax burden.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's to work off their property tax.
It's the first time I've seen it, this.
Yeah.
Same
And
thing.
the explanation is.
Could be the first year that it's a certain amount.
No, I am not in that program, even though I am a senior citizen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's in the cash program.
Nor,
So at this point, we move to have the article approved as written.
I move it was written.
Oh, Jim.
Is that yours or what?
I asked if I could, to deal with Mike DeMayo or somebody else.
Oh, okay. She's just got $20.
Second? Second says so.
You have to have the money appropriated before you can spend it, so.
Right, further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstained?
Is it 9, did I hear that they were combined?
Where's my thing here? 8 and 9 combined, yeah. Yeah, and I apologize, they didn't tell me that any of these things were gonna be combined until they told us at the joint meeting. So
Well, combining only means that they
Discussion.
will vote on them in succession.
Yes, but like,
Doesn't mean
so like
that
it meant like,
vote.
yes, but like I think like 15,
But
16,
But like
I
if
had gone like
they draw
5s.
9 randomly, they will vote on 8 and 9 together.
It was
They
just,
won't,
it
they
was
won't vote
15,
9,
16, and 20, 21, which sort of jumped different people. That was sort of, yeah.
I printed it.
Sorry, Don, I'm looking, I have unbelievable on this piece.
See, I think here's,
Excise tax.
that's how I used to, when you join it.
Okay. It's funny because I actually have on 8 and 9, I have some questions on that as well. So
Are you gonna vote them separately or together?
we'll both do separately.
Town meeting votes in separate ones.
So this is your article, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we really don't have an answer on that.
I'm not sure who we want to talk to.
Okay.
It seems to me that if I was to rent an Airbnb or whatnot, I'd be excise tax to me.
They'll probably pass it on. The
So,
establishment.
no, if I was the renter, if I was renting from you,
Right, you
The
pass
renter
it
will
on.
pay it.
Right, it'd be added to your bill. Instead of, probably broken out, instead of $100, it might be $120. It's like you go to a hotel room or something.
Right, and I'm thinking if you bought like, if you rented like, let's say Alice, thinking like Alice's house should be just like 5,000 a week, so is that $350 to the renter? Or is there a carve out for nonprofits? And then number 9, which was the 3%, like it says professionally managed, I mean, I sort of put that in quotation. Or
This is
something
all-
like that.
This is all done, I mean.
Yeah. We can table 8 and 9.
is there any other suggestion to go out and get more information?
This is,
It says it's a board of selectmen article, so I would guess all right. Open, it's right there.
it's right here, huh?
Yeah.
Perfect time.
I'm into everything in life, I just finished capital budget. How we doing?
Good, thanks.
Good, except for your-
Let's grab a chair.
Good.
The answer.
So it's like the meal tax.
Yeah.
It's
That
similar,
Will come to town.
That's a good question.
coffers.
but the meal tax is put right on the bill, so everybody knows what we're talking about.
It's fine, it's not. Mike, we're talking about Article 8
Okay.
and 9, 6% and 3%.
I don't memorize.
Yeah, local excise tax of 6%.
Yes. Okay. So the first one, we already have on the books, believe it or not. We take in about $10,000 a year. Now, that went on the books in 1989 here. And that is the Bridgeway, the Fairview, and at one time, there used to be a couple other inns in there. Not everyone reports, because I don't think that's an honest figure. And $9,898, I think, is the actual the last fiscal year. So the next one, Article 9, is for the name Airbnb. But it's not just Airbnb, it's everyone that rents out a 2, 3 family house or summer rentals. And that's where you get, the state allows you to take that money. It's not paid by, and it's not taxed on the people that own the property. It is the people that rent the rooms, just like a hotel. Just think of it like a hotel. It's the 6% on the hotel. And why they allow you to do that is on a place like Marshfield, where the population goes from about 26,000 to about 40,000 people in the summer. That type of transfer tax allows a place like Marshfield to take that extra money in, and that goes to offsetting the additional police, fire, ambulance, additional trash collection at the beaches, wear and tear, etc.
So if you've got a $2,000 a week rental, then you add that 3% on, and that's what's due, and then the homeowner is responsible for paying the.
No, the rentee.
They pay the homeowner, but how does the town get that money?
The homeowner does a registration fee with the city and town. They have to fill out annually a form. And the form asks questions, how many rooms do you rent? How many units do you have? What is the cost of your rent? And I don't know if they pay. I think they pay quarterly. State usually does quarterly. I don't think it's every month. But the minutia portion of it, I know that we'll be very aggressive in making sure that we get our money that's owed to the town.
So are you doubling up on some places, like getting the 6% and the 3%?
No, you only can do one, so it depends what category you fall into.
So these are different categories.
They're different
This
categories.
is more like a.
Right, the whole professionally managed, you can have a.
Right, it's play one, and then Airbnb is you're renting out your house, private domicile.
What did you say about the
Yeah.
first one?
The first one is like an inn,
An inn.
so an inn, so like the Bridgeway, like
Fairview.
the Fairview, and there was another inn in town, believe it or not, one in Grand Rock at one time, and one up in Hummerock on Ferry Street.
So can we have a definition of short-term anywhere?
The state has a definition. Go on their website under this particular section of the law. They have a definition. I think it's, and I'll paraphrase, short-term is short as a day or as long as months, I think.
Is there a car
I
road
know
for
that
nonprofits
definition
like
before we
Alice's
vote on
house?
it. I'll try to-
That means it's in Situate.
That's Situate, so it doesn't affect us.
But is there a car road for nonprofits?
No, I don't think so. I don't know. That's a good question, but not one that I can answer.
So 9 is strictly the Airbnb.
Well, it's called, most people know what it's a transfer tax, so.
So all the summer rentals then that are currently like.
So if you rent out your house, like I know tons of people that rent
Yeah.
houses in town,
Mhm.
especially in Wrexham, Grand Rock, anything on the ocean. So if this passes, those people then, which their renters would then be charged, if it's $2,000, would go on to that, and the town would receive that revenue.
State website,
There's a state website, yeah. I'm
It's not
sorry.
like there's a time limit on it. It just defines it, from what I'm reading, as just a non-hotel. If I can find an actual definition.
So the money goes back to the municipality. It doesn't.
Right, goes to the general fund, that's correct.
I don't know if anybody found anything different, but it's, the Google tells me a short-term rental is an occupied property that is not a hotel, motel, lodging house, or bed and breakfast establishment where at least one room or unit is rented out by an operator through the use of advanced reservations. A short-term rental includes an apartment, house, cottage, and condominium.
Correct, that's
Doesn't have
Article 8.
anything about the
Right.
length or duration of
Yeah.
the rental.
That's Article 8.
In the, this is the state definition.
Right, but I'm saying that's the definition to Article 8.
So they're defining, the town is defining it as short-term as being even as short.
Any rental, any rental, period.
Ah, wait, yeah, right.
So even if it's like a year,
This is the
is
definition.
Yeah.
that short-term as well?
I don't know if that's
Days,
short
right?
term, it could be,
But it would still apply.
but any rental,
Okay,
period,
any rental.
any rental.
It's a period of 31 days or less.
This is gonna impact about 31 days.
31 days or less.
So a month.
So if they rent for 32 days, they wouldn't be subject to this.
So like a winter rental?
With the rental probably would be subject.
So the homeowner will be responsible for collecting the fee from the renter, and then the homeowner will have to, because they've registered with the town,
They
will
would
be
file with the
responsible.
treasurer collector,
Okay.
correct?
And they have to say how many rentals, so there'll be some sort of honor
They
system?
fill out this, yeah, I mean, it is, everything is on the honest. It's not we're gonna send, we're not gonna employ people to go out and check on them, so we'll have to rely that they would be good stewards. And more than likely they would, because they're not paying. It's the people that are renting pay.
Is this the rate, the wording that we get from maybe the state? I'm just kind of like,
Yes.
you had a house and you didn't have a professionally managed, you just did it yourself. Would that be like a loophole to say like, it's not
No.
professionally managed, I just do it.
It's to specifically go after, really, those are the people that aren't reporting, it's the people that do it privately.
Like, is this something that other communities are doing as well?
Yeah, it's big, yeah, you go on the DOR's website, they'll list out all the communities.
Even there's a list of what they charge with fees each town has.
There is, is it
Their registration.
63, see, comment?
What's that?
Can you see it right there?
I went past it, but yeah, here is short-term lodging tax percentage by town. Local tax up to 6%, and then there's a chart, but it won't open up for you.
So this is 3%.
So the short term refers to any rental period of 31 days or less. So annual or long-term rentals are excluded from that.
Right, so winter and summer rentals wouldn't be,
Winter and winter,
well, because it's longer than winter, anything over 31 days.
okay. So from number 9, so winter rental would be excluded from number 9, okay. So it's really just the summer and.
Short term,
Okay.
yeah, up to 31 days.
Hold on, say short term.
So I do have that chart open if you
I'm
want.
just kind of curious as to
Like, I mean,
like situated, that's right, limits, something like that. Just curious.
So that's it.
Situate is at 6%.
From the Bridgeway, the Fairview, I know those two pay in there.
That wasn't the total thing.
Well, they're the only two that pay into it, some sort of an honor system. There are many, many others that were renting. We don't have it on the book, so we don't go after them. There are some other businesses that probably fall into something similar. I mean, you can Google and find names of inns and stuff in Marshfield that don't do DBAs.
So there's a state tax of 5.7% on these short term, and the local one, if you look at local ones, Duxbury is 0,
That's it.
Kingston is 6%, Plymouth is 6%, Situate is 6%. Those are the local ones, nothing inland has any.
And that's helped help support the increased use of
Correct. We'll go into the general fund and offset the additional police requirement, fire, ambulance, trash pickup, street sweeping caused by the additional people.
So when you said the bridge, just on real clear between the two, Bridgeway and Fairview, that's out of Lake.
Okay,
And Airbnb would be that.
correct. Well, Airbnb and anyone that rents, a homeowner, 2 or 3 family, or short-term rental. If you look at the definition, it's kind of a strange. It says 2 or 3 family or short-term rental,
2 or 3 families in.
house. Because remember, it's a state, so it's drafted to fit into cities and towns.
Okay.
I see it worded that way. It says and short-term rentals, and 2-family or 3-family, not like 4 short-term rentals. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it says and instead of or. So I could say like, well, I'm not professionally managing it because I'm doing this myself, and it's not a 2-family or 3-family. It's a single family.
It says the article authorizes the imposition of a local community impact fee of not more than 3% on the transfer of occupancy on various types of short-term rentals, including professionally managed units and short-term rental units in a 2-family or 3-family dwelling that includes the operator's primary residence authorized under chapter 337 of the Acts of 2018.
It's a little different than, yeah.
That's the explanation. Bob put the articles together, so.
Oh, that was the explanation, that's what,
And then the explanation for number 8 is authorizes the imposition of a local excise tax of not more than 6% on the transfer or occupancy of various types of short-term rentals now authorized by chapter 337 of the Acts of 2018. It's in the same, they updated both in the same piece of legislation.
All right, so I don't know if I'm missing something here. Short-term rentals, including professionally managed units and short-term rental units in a two-family or three-family dwelling. It includes, what if it's just a summer cottage? You know, what if it's just a cottage, it's a single-family residence? Do we cover this? And I missed it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the explanation wording is better than the wording that's in the article.
Yeah, I just want to be sure, that so the single-family residence, any cottage then, because the way that I'm reading this, Mike, and tell me if I'm wrong, is professionally managed units and short-term rental units in a two-family or three-family dwelling. It includes the operator's primary residence, which we really don't have very many two- or three-family dwellings here in Marshfield,
That's
right?
correct.
So,
We do have a few, but not many.
yes, so, but does this exclude single-family residences then?
I see what you get now.
Unless
Okay,
it's
you see what I mean?
professional.
Because what if it's not
Professionally
professionally managed? So many people rent their houses and they're not professionally managed, so does that
That's
exclude?
in Article 8.
I'll ask,
Airbnb constitute professional.
I'll ask Bob Galvin, but it's to capture anyone that does rentals.
Yes, so the way that I'm reading this is professionally managed, single-family, or two-family and three-family dwellings.
So I don't know if you're catching the nuance there. So if we're saying that a professionally managed single-family dwelling is rented by a professional management company, they would have the 3% tax. If it's managed by the homeowner, not professionally managed, they would get charged 6%.
I believe that's correct.
So if you have a professionally
But if you
managed,
wanna
you only
send me-
charge 3%.
if you
but
wanna send
do
me
it
your
yourself,
question,
you have to charge 6%.
I'll have Bob, because Bob would be the expert on it.
And is it only, because the second part of that is just professionally, it's just professionally managed units and short-term rental units in a two-family, short-term rental units in a two-family or three-family, it doesn't say anything about single-family.
Okay.
I'll
So
put out
whatever-
the question, I'll put out the question to
Okay.
anybody that wants.
That's great.
Email it to
Well,
us.
Just send me the
Text
question,
right
That's
away
great,
and
you know,
shoot it
and
off.
we'll get you the answer.
I just think it's a little ambiguous, I don't know that,
Alright,
I
let's,
don't think it's intended to be obviously. but-
Yeah, when you read it, if you think this is, you should read the
Oh,
whole piece of legislation.
I'm sure, I don't, yeah, I'm not, there's no,
Yeah, I can't,
Criticism there,
I
I
never
just-
answer a question that I'm not sure of,
I just
so I'll
wanna make
defer
sure
to
that-
Bob. Yeah.
that we're voting on.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to,
We should be right in front of the
Yeah.
public.
right, like a lot of
And
things,
then
we need
again,
in front of the
6%.
podium, both Mark's and Mark's new this. So let's table 8 and 9, we'll get some questions together, we'll get some answers, so by the time meeting comes around, we'll have an idea. Excellent.
And just so you know, Mr. Chairman, we're not doing any private rooms, because if I do private rooms for meetings, I have to pay to have those cleaned.
No.
Yeah, because everyone's gonna
Yeah.
meet in front of
In
everyone.
front of the, yeah.
Susan,
Okay, all right, so 8 and 9, we're
Sorry,
going to
you
move
would
it on
make sure
to
that
Article 10.
So we're not gonna do
We're
that.
not going to vote on 8 and 9.
I'm gonna send out a-
Questions, but
a-
if you have
I
questions,
think it needs to be,
Does everybody want to be involved with that email, or just Sherry? or
no, you know
you?
what my question is, I think you can probably justify my question, all right? If not,
And then we'll
if
get
not,
it
reach out to
Yeah,
me.
good explanation, and then we have to get further clarification.
And I do think that if it's professionally managed, then it's a 6%, 3%. And if it's not professionally managed, then it's 6%. I don't understand that.
No, 6%,
That's what I think that they're saying, is that it's 6%.
the 6% is in the Bridgewater.
That's right.
The 3% is in your home.
Right.
but it says short-term rental.
It does say
or
short-term.
motel.
No, it says short-term
rental
also, yeah,
definition.
short-term rental or a motel at a rate of 6%.
My sense is they're just incorporating section 3A of Mass General 6G and 3D. So if we look at those, maybe that clarifies some of the. But I don't know, the article itself isn't ambiguous.
It is, and here's what I would hate to see happen, you know, the homeowner charges 3%, and then, surprise, you're charged 6%, and, you know, that could be a big difference to someone at the end of the season if they don't know that there's an additional 3% that they have to pay, right?
That's a rental.
As a, no,
As-
so,
as-
so
as
the
the
homeowner
homeowner
is
has to
ultimately
pay.
gonna be responsible for paying the town, but if they're charging, so if you're charging, you know, $2,000 a week, and you know that you have to collect an extra $60 for the 3% fee, and then you go to pay it with the town, and it's actually 6%.
And that wouldn't happen, so that
It
wouldn't
wouldn't
happen.
happen, Mike?
That wouldn't happen because if this is adopted, then we would have IGRs that would explain to folks which category they fall into, what they would have to charge. So there would be like a training, because everyone would have to, you know, we can't mandate people to come and fill out the forms, but the people who do come forward, then there would be a process, and the process would be outlined on which category of the law that you fit into based on the type of operation you have. And then
That's right.
how you'll be paying, will you pay every month, do you pay quarterly, annually, semi-annually?
Okay.
All that would be spelled all out, so there's nothing.
That's great.
Are we sure they're not cumulative? Like nine is cumulative of 8, like for a certain subset of 8, you charge an additional 3% as a community impact fee?
Bob put the articles together, so
Okay.
Bob's, I'm
That's
gonna,
the way I'm reading it.
I just think the clarification on the
Yeah.
language is what
Yeah.
I think is important.
I agree. 'Cause I actually read in the statute as saying there's 6% on all of these.
Yeah, I think
And then if it's a professionally managed, you can do another 3%.
Yeah.
If it's a 2 or 3 family unit, you can do another 3%.
Yeah, I think.
I think
just
that's the way I read the
clarification on the
statute.
language,
yeah,
because-
so send me the questions, and Bob, will be- I'm sure
Yep,
Bob's
and
happy
since
to
it's-
answer.
Yep, and so Paul, you know.
Can you email that one?
I'll reach out.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. Okay, on Article,
10.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
on Article 10 is, I spent over, I don't know, probably over an hour on the phone with Dave. He's very passionate about our water supply here.
Yes, he is.
And this, I would move to approve it as written. This could go, we could get very, very deep into this. Basically, as far as the town is concerned, this is the water supply of the mountains. If somebody, I try to be pretty attentive to it. Zone 2, Zone 1 is Zone 2 is very large in acreage, water pollution. So, questions that came up to me were about this contract that they work on this stuff, depending on what they're doing in 400 feet of the well. Holding, equipment, fuels.
So meaning this was when Verizon came in and they did the thing around the pole. right?
Yes.
Started having spray and all that. People doing it in the neighborhood.
So, and private wells too, right? It's just to protect the water supply, as he alluded to back in the 80s. Immediate,
So the rising is coming in about what?
and they were putting poles
I
in.
remember that they spraying the bill.
Yeah, but even our clothes that we're wearing,
Yeah.
that's easy. Unless they've washed them 6 times. If you work for the town, you want to do water safety, you have to have your clothes washed 6 times. You wear them, and wash them. The same, a lot of this comes in construction. Construction, this stuff is in it. So it'd be a little bit difficult to police, but it's, as he said, even if it doesn't pass, there's going to be quite a bit of education process involved. Just to educate people on water. So it's kind of like the safety issue, right? I don't think that that's not 100% permissible, by law. But it's going away.
Is there a fine involved in this?
A second.
A fine, he didn't mention any fines.
No, sir.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. Okay, Article 10, this is moving on to Article 11.
Article 11, the spoke to review on planning board, and this is a house, basically a sign specification, uniform signs. So it's the same thing's gonna happen with 12. We're just specifying that it's two-sided, 40 square feet, where it's placed relative to property lines.
So we're moving Article 11.
Yeah, move on to 11.
Second. All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. Passes. Article 12.
And 12 is the same thing. Going back to 12.
Second. All those in favor of Article 12 say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. 12 passes. 13.
This is relative to solar farms that have been allowed to be placed in the water resource protection overlay district. So I'll move for the 13.
Discussion.
So this is probably enabling the sign down Enterprise Drive?
Well, 13 is going to be, this is going to be for solar farms in place
Okay.
over in a certain district. Never before. So it's better use of resources for the solar farm. That's what we normally do.
And the construction of those farms comes in together, bylaws.
But we have to be at a short-term rental of solar farm.
Then you pay.
I just,
Depends if it's question 8 or not.
Rented for 32 days.
Any further discussion on 13? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained.
And then Article 14, deals with renumbering an existing bylaw, so it's just again for housekeeping item.
Okay.
So I'll move on 14.
So all those in favor say aye. Opposed, abstained. 15.
I have that one.
Okay, yep.
15 and 16, they're linking them. Basically, 15 is a new table of use for affordable village, okay? The purpose of this article is to create a new category in the designated portion of the PMUD that will be called the affordable village. And it's going to provide affordable housing units not intended to protect open space. This will require a special permit by the planning board. 20% of the units built will have to meet the affordability requirements and will have resale restrictions to protect the affordable housing status. It also will count towards the town's 10% affordable housing requirements under 40B, and, sorry, I lost commentary. So then link with 16, and do we have to vote on one at a time?
you can discuss it together, but
Yeah.
Discuss
Discuss
it
it together.
discuss it together and then we'll vote.
And 16 is actually the change to the language, to the existing PMUD language. And the landowner and the residents in this area are in favor of this article. I did speak with a couple of homeowners up there. I spent some time with Greg Haymond. People in this area up there, Proprietors Drive, own that area, kind of Boys Club. They understand that this protects them from higher density developments on the site. Okay? They favor the graduated progression of units, duplex, triplex, and fourplex, and understand that it's going to serve as a buffer between the existing homes and condos and Modera 1 and potential Modera 2 developments. So they are in favor. It's, I don't know if you've seen the overlay, but there is a section of land that they designated for this area. And basically, it protects from the higher density development. I move to, the articles
Just further discussion. Do you see this one bogging down the town meeting just because it's 10 pages? There's just a lot of stuff there?
I don't think so. Usually Greg does a really good job. The moderator's intent is to clump all of the planning board articles together, but they'll all be voted on individually, but Greg will give an overall summation of each one.
Any vote on Article 15. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, Article 15 passes. Vote on Article 16. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Point of order.
What's that? Yep.
She needs to move that article separately.
Oh, my bad, thank you.
Okay. I moved Article 16 as written.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. Susan keep me on my toes. Okay, Article 17.
So 17, also one of the planning board articles, may or may not have discussion at town meeting, depending on the Brent Rock Association and their decision at the time. They are on the fence at this time and are really not committing either way as to whether they are in favor or not. So the Article 17 is really just adding a definition of the mixed-use building to add the residential on the second and third floors. I do think the wording could be better. I would recommend an amendment to it, but I don't think they're going to implement it, because as written, it says both commercial and residential on the second and third floors, which one would interpret to say you can have commercial on the second and third floors as well. It's not the intent. The intent is that the first floor could be commercial space and non-habitable space. So you could have commercial space and parking, commercial space and storage, but not habitable residential space on the first floor, and then second and third floor would be residential only. That's the intent as written. I think somebody in a regulatory space could probably drive a truck through it, but as written, that definition is what the intent is.
That was my question, you know, you drive your car, the ramp, that first floor, we had a couple of prints. You go right through and up.
Hey, you're thinking ahead, Doc, right?
Well, I mean.
Is the whole definition the amendment or just the
ramp?
The bolded part is the only thing that's being changed in the definition,
So they're adding the whole different one.
adding the bold.
So this allows you to update the commercial building with residential use, maybe space that isn't being used.
So-
To convert.
So if it's in the space, if it's in the areas that are, we look at 17, like where they're being added.
Well, there was talk at one time Brent Rock was gonna do this.
So.
I'm sure that's part of it.
When you see the dots all connect in all articles in town meeting, you'll see that they're setting the stage for potential, because there have been, and I asked them straight out, like, why are we doing this? Because they have had applications come in for 5-story, commercial residential combos in Grant Rock. Grant Rock is not amenable to 5-story there, so they want to put language in now, limit it to 3 stories. You'll see in some of the other articles, the 3rd story can't even be flush with the outside, it has to be recessed back. They have the example image, if you've seen the ones like behind Roach Brothers, the top floor is set back a little bit so the visual height is not as great. That's the overall intent of like 4 articles combined, is to allow it with permitted by the planning board. They sort of get permitted for it. But when you look at some of the other articles right now, it would have to go to the zoning board of appeals. Now they would just be able to get it through special permit, up to 3 floors.
Several years ago, the height, I think, was also limited by the fire truck. How high, because I remember they wanted to put some, say 4-story economic.
Right.
And the fire chief said, no, you have to be
Yeah, so that would still currently all be limited by
Yeah.
planning board, so
Yeah.
that's unrelated to to the definition of the mixed-use buildings. So,
So could they have commercial space on second and third floor then?
right now,
This is written.
they could try.
All right, so silly question, is there a way to amend the article other than a town meeting?
Well, anybody can amend it at town meeting. You can amend it here, you can talk about it, and say you're gonna place an amendment. But that's the only place is town meeting.
So with those parentheses, the inference is like, that's residential, second and third, commercial
I
first
think
one.
what they want to say is a
Not-
building that includes both commercial and residential uses in a single building, where only residential is permitted on the second and third floors, right? That's what they
Where,
prefer to say.
yeah, they
In
should.
the definition,
Yeah.
in
And I
the-
think- I
that's
think you're
the
right, I think the
explanation.
intent,
I
yeah.
agree with you. I thought, what happens if it's a single floor, it's a one-story building? Can they have a mixed use if it's one story?
Because as it's written, you could have a single, residential unit on the second floor, and then you could potentially have, a dentist office, I don't know what dentist office.
Well, you could rent the third floor out for an office.
Yeah, for an
Right.
office.
That's the intent of, so just to, first of all, Susan did a great job of explaining it, number one. Number two, it's limited to Grant Rock Village area and to the PMUD to allow the commercial development. But those are good questions raised. What they wanted to do, Susan was correct, they wanted to be able to head off having 5 stories. Now remember, even with the 3 stories in Grant Rock, because of the elevation, you're gonna be, I'm not an expert, but probably at 12 or 14, and then 3 stories on top of that.
Yeah, because it has to be raised, so the first floor is not at
First
ground
occupied.
level.
Yeah.
Right, Ron?
But is the thought that this will only apply to multi-story buildings, and on the first story, it will only be commercial, and on the second, and third, it will only be residential? That's what they want.
So the first floor would be commercial or non-habitable residential, such as parking or storage.
Okay.
That's the intent.
Does that even make sense that we could do, because like, think of like Haddad, right, because Haddad, you go up the hill, right, and then they're some there.
That's what we think of Venus, because that's where we're thinking.
Exactly, because if you had to do that on the Esplanade, I mean, it would be like, what, 12 feet up from the street versus like, Haddad's is more of a gradual thing, right?
Exactly.
So, that high,
So,
yeah.
I tell you, if you gave me a little image here, because, I don't know if you can see, like, the ground floor, right? And then everything would need to be raised, right? Any significant construction in that area would need to be raised up.
So those
So it
garages
was-
right there for cars?
That's ground level, you could park cars there.
Okay.
You could or you can't?
You could,
You could. Underneath?
You could.
Could they put parking underneath?
they could,
Except you want to move them when there's a...
When it's,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
if you live,
but it
yeah.
would not be recommended for the residential
Right,
parking.
so if you're going up there shopping and there's commercial space,
They could potentially choose to do that. And then the 3 stories would be above with the top story set in to take away from the visual height.
Well, actually, Venus is 3 stories now.
It is.
It is.
and it's raised, right? It
I
is.
know they want to develop it, they want to knock the place down. I know that was the talk.
They want to develop from there to Dee Del
Right.
Santo's property.
Right, 'cause she
I
wants-
believe they have the rights to all of that.
Right.
So the first article
Yeah.
of this is,
Again, do we want to reach out for better language on 17 and 18?
I think you're right.
I mean,
I
I
could
think
easily
it's up to
clarify
the,
that language.
I think it's up to, who brought the article.
The planning board.
I met with Greg, I recommended it. He's told me that he was told by the moderator that whoever brought the article is not allowed to submit an amendment.
So it has to be amended
Greg's
on the floor.
amenable to
You
it.
can't change anything right now,
No.
unfortunately.
Right.
Only on the floor.
Okay, so either people that bring the article, so Greg.
They could submit it ahead of time in writing.
Or.
If it's
Or-
more than 10 words, correct.
Or on the floor.
Wait a minute. We're talking planning board articles, amendments are awful. If we're gonna get it bogged down with amendments, they should pull the article back and put forward
Yep. Well,
at the end, because they need time to, we have this, Roach Brothers was done that way. They brought it forward, there were too many questions, they rewrote it over a period of time. If this is gonna be like that, go back to the drawing board, rewrite it. You don't want amendments in town meeting, planning board, because what's gonna happen is the town council is gonna get confused. And he's not gonna be able to defend whatever he's trying to do. It's happened a lot. You just don't want to confuse people.
Yeah,
it's
and
just
the way that
the
this is written.
way it's written, without having talked through it all with him, he could take that to me, commercial and residential are on the second and third floors.
I would talk to Greg and see what he wants to do.
I did talk to Greg, and he says he's not submitting an amendment because he was told he could not.
No, I'm not telling him to amend it. He can either go forward with this or pull it back if he doesn't feel it's written. I'm not telling him to amend it.
It's the board, yeah, the board would have to make that determination. It's a planning board article.
Do you want to table 17 and 18 and get some more clarification?
I mean, that's the clarification that I got, that's the intent, but this is essentially forever changing the bylaw if they don't change it now, so.
And it's ambiguous.
Even if it's just a clarification, you think that would create a problem if we previewed it to Bob?
It depends how they're going to rewrite this, if they're going to do it. I'm just saying, from past experiences, planning board articles get screwed up if there's amendments, unless they write them.
So do you think the parentheses that on the second, third floor, like that's, I'm not trying to write it.
No, I mean, I think, because
Like, what do
I
you
think
think?
it would probably be fine.
Well, anything in bold is what they're adding, so they're adding on the second and third
Right.
floor. And they're adding mixed-use buildings are allowed as specified in 305-5.04 table of use.
So right now, there's no restriction.
Right now, there's no
They're adding
restriction.
that restriction
Right.
So
on the
it's better.
second and third floor.
So this makes it better.
You don't have to agree with it.
Yeah, but it would be,
Like if they said.
Planning board says it
I
does.
do
If they
think
said, if they added residential only on second and third floors, clear as day. They added those two words.
what is it?
So why don't we do this next time, we talk to Greg and see if he wants to clarify any more, just leave it alone. He has a few weeks to do it.
Based upon your wording, like we could say, okay, we're okay with that, like before town meeting, and we could actually make an amendment to like Greg can't. Does that make sense?
Right, but you don't want to change it too much.
No, but just whatever
Just
you
to-
said.
We're not submitting any kind of an amendment. Like, we would either vote on it.
No, we can amend. If he agrees to it, it makes sense, that's one thing. The town council needs to look at these amendments, I'm telling you.
He would make a review, that's true, town
Yeah.
council would.
I'd like to see town council look at this and just to say, no, this wording is fine. You say, okay, because I think the idea is good, like you said, like not a five-story building, very wrong, right? But
Just so everyone knows, town council's reviewed and approved the language to the warrant. Never gets to the warrant without town council's approval.
But if this many questions here, we don't want it to be like
Be a
that.
five-night town meeting.
Yeah,
So,
over really nothing.
to Mr. Polinsky's point, if the advisory board's having issues with interpreting, then, it's an article that they might want to think, only because they have so many. We're not talking about one. I think there's 13 planning
At
boards.
least just for
Yeah.
this.
And here's my concern, if we're having trouble interpreting it now, never mind town meeting, what happens after if this article moves forward and then we're, what are we setting the stage for?
But it may be very simple. See, what makes it confusing is that you don't see the whole thing. They're only in the warrant is only, so you have to read the whole, you have to go to the use of every
So why don't
table.
we do that?
Yeah, I actually did look at the code,
Yeah,
and it's no more clear in the
I
full text
actually,
of
if I
the
look at
code.
this, I actually think it's suggesting that residential can only be in the second and third floor, but it's silent as to what a commercial can be. That's the way I view it. It's not that they're saying
That makes sense.
commercial and residential on the second and third floor. It's suggesting that you can't have residential on the first floor, but it's suggesting
right,
that
because you
commercial.
can't, you're right, because you can't in
That's
that
the way,
area.
that's the way I think it reads.
Yeah.
But that's, and I totally understand with your experience, I feel like Bob recognized that. a minute and be comfortable getting it done.
Yeah, I would suggest we table 17, get a good explanation, so when you present this at town meeting, say, you know, we had a hard time with this, this is exactly what it means. And maybe that would alleviate a lot of questions at town meeting. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but I'll be full honesty, I'm on the road again in the morning, and I'm gonna have zero time to follow up.
Okay, well, I can ask questions on it. I'll talk to Craig about it. That's right. Okay, so why don't we do that? So why don't we table 17 and 18?
Okay.
All right? So we can block down.
Do you have 18 also?
I did take 18 also.
Because just so
Okay.
So
I have 19.
18 related, so what 18 is doing is adding the Grand Rapids Village Overlay District. And right now, if you look at the current table of use, it's already allowed. And this is just adding clarification to the Grand Rapids overlay. Right now,
You want to vote on this one now?
what's up?
You want to vote on 18 now?
Yeah, I can move 18 as written.
All right.
I'll second.
Okay, further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And this is a good one because it allows mixed use, it allows residents in the B1. If you remember correctly, when I was a selectman, I did get into a disagreement with the planning board because they voted not to allow anyone to live in the downtown area. So we
So
we
they
were
do
the
want
only,
to make 17 and
we were
18.
the only city in town that had no one living.
That's okay, but that's for discussion, but you can vote it separately.
There's a map, yeah, he's got a map. You just see, there was a map.
Oh, the overlay?
Yeah, I thought we had like
There's a colored map.
engineer's
Yeah.
rendering, or what they call it, architecture's rendering, or something like that. Hospital, like that was going on that.
Just want to see.
All right, Article 19 is you, Sherry.
I have it, yep.
Okay.
Basically, this is a language change, and it's specific, and it's to flag to people so that they will need a water resource protection district, WRPD, permit for a mixed-use building within the planned mixed-use development overlay. So basically, it's flagging to people that they're going to need both permits for a mixed-use building. The town wants the language to be very clear so that it eliminates any confusion around what is required for permitting.
Okay.
Okay.
Is you Article 19?
I move Article 19 as written.
Just further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. Okay, Article 20.
Article 20 and 21 line, Tom, I'm asking if we can table those because I have not been able to sit with Greg on these two. It's mine. Okay.
22, Susan, is that
That's
right?
right. Yep, so 22 is a discussion about the Brent Rock overlay district and adding the language, the change adds the language around the access, storage, and parking on the first floor, mixed use, and requiring a minimum of 40% of the first floor be commercial, so you couldn't change, you couldn't have that mixed use be full residential, it has to be 40% of the first floor has to be commercial at a minimum. The other change is, with this, is it would not go to the planning board of appeals, it would go directly to the planning board for special permit, it would not have to be a variance.
Can the first floor be all commercial? or
Yes.
it's okay?
Minimum of 40%.
It just has to be 40% to
They've also added in a significant amount of detail around, on the upper floors, the decking that's required around it and the space that's required, and it actually eliminates the ability to have the decking requirement that's actually required for the space to walk around. They would not be able to use that for seating area above, so in my opinion, it's a good movement, yeah. I think that's about,
I have a question here.
The setback of the third floor, second showed in the diagram.
what's that?
The setback on the third floor.
The setback of the third floor is on here, and also the density is maintained, so there's not real concerns about increased density in areas that have this. That was one of my concerns, that like traffic and, all sorts of that, like the overall density that's already allowed to be changed.
So one of my questions was the fourth bullet, it's on page 30, it says requiring on-site parking, and it's recommended, so it's not, you don't have to, right, but it says residential parking be located above the base flood elevation, which means from the street, it's hot.
For the residential,
Yeah,
it's recommended.
yeah, I mean, I'm not an architect, I mean, I'm not sure how you park all these cars high
On the
enough.
first floor, first floor parking, we have elevated.
You got a ramp, they go up the ramp.
Right, but isn't from like your street level, it's the base
Oh,
elevation,
yeah,
12 feet, right?
it's
It's
12
right?
or 14 feet.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah, whatever it is, you have to
That, I
have
was
one.
curious with them.
If not, your car floods.
right?
Can you just come up and swear? That particular item, somebody's required. Somebody get a copy of it.
Typically when stuff like this comes up, these people just say, where are you gonna park? You're a residential parking, and yes, when I'm like, where do you park? Because then you can park on, yes, when I'm just gonna park in for people who want to go down there, go to the jetty or add to the beach or something like that.
It's a recommendation, not a restriction, so I
Right.
don't think it's overly restrictive. So, portion of any units built in the Brightlock overlay in the mixed-use buildings, 10% of them would have to be designated as affordable housing units. So that adds to the tally of units for the town as well. And with the article as written,
What is the special permit maybe that last couple of recommendations?
the planning board.
This is changing special permit.
I think it's the ZBA has it now. It's the ZBA.
That's the zoning board of appeals, so it wouldn't require a variance anymore, it would just be
Right,
granted
be
a special permit, so it
No, his
rightfully.
question was who has it presently, and it would be the ZBA. They're changing it to planning. I just
Right,
know,
because
as I
it's a
said,
special permit now, not a
Correct.
variance.
So how would something like this work? Like you go to the Driftway and have those like really nice condos down there. So when you throw in the 40B, affordable housing, you really can't have it like that, right? It can't be that high end because there has to be 10%. That's going to be affordable.
If you can't differentiate, in other words.
correct,
What's the place right in Watkell?
the Maples,
Maple. Now, there's
Ceiling.
affordable in there,
right.
and everything is the same. Interior, everything is
Yeah.
the same. So there can be no differentiation between an affordable unit and.
So my understanding is the ability to make these 3 stories and have 2 stories of residential makes it financially viable to do this. If they couldn't go 2 stories up with residential, the
Uneconomically
property
feasible.
value and the cost associated there would just not make it viable financially for any investor to develop it.
The Article 22, so we seconded.
She didn't move.
Oh, I thought you did.
She read it.
No, he had another question, so.
Yeah.
I saw move Article 22 as written.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? 23.
So 23 is also me. The intent here on 23 is to remove the restriction to, like currently you could not add an accessory apartment for new construction. You could only add it to aged construction under special permit. Yes. So So they put the requirement in that it can only be one bedroom because they don't want it to be like subdivided into a duplex at some point. Any sale of the main house has to include the auxiliary apartment. So they basically are trying to make sure if you have your in-law apartment, you can't sell it later as a condo. It's part of the house.
So the sale has to include.
You want to move on to 23?
So I will move Article 23 as written.
I second it.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. 24.
24 is also me. So this is aligning our bylaws to match the language from the I'm going to say state flood, the FEMA flood guidelines, where last year, I think, or 2 years ago, they added this in, and FEMA was okay with it, and then once we put it in, FEMA said, no, we're not okay with that anymore, so we're taking it out to align with what FEMA wants so that we can save in the program. So I will move Article 24 as written.
Second.
I'll say it's state and FEMA.
Yes.
Stay here, yeah. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. Article 25, Susan doing yeoman's work here. This is you too as well? 25?
25 is, yeah, that's me also. So they did want to link this with 26. And this is just adding a new definition in alignment with, with the yield plan definition, so that that yield plan definition in all of the tables is clear. Article 25 as written.
Second. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. Are you doing 26 as well, because you're linked, or is that going to go to Don?
I did not have any discussion about.
Okay. All set?
All right, 26. I move it as written. And it kind of makes it clear to all parties what the density will be in the proposed development. 27 and 28, I knew it was written in my talking with Greg, it's just these are grammatical corrections that bring the language closer to conformity with state law.
Okay.
It's 27 and 28, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you moved on to 26, it was a second there, right?
Yep.
Carlos, okay, so further discussion on 26. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. Article 27, you want to move that going?
I move that.
All right, further discussion on 27. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. Article 28.
Grammatical, I move it as written.
Second.
See, further discussion, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. All right, on to 29.
I move it as written, and then let's talk, Mike, and this benefits residents that currently have flood insurance. They will receive a discount because the town purchased property to help alleviate the flooding. I went down and looked at the property, and it's just there, and Brett's saying that I met with you, and
Yes.
this benefits the town.
Yeah,
We
my
get points
first
on the
question
flood
about it was, why would we bother buying it? It's unbuildable, so the water's gonna go there anyway, but it doesn't count towards the town quota, so to speak, if the town doesn't own it. So even though it's not buildable, it's gonna have the same amount of water in it, nothing's gonna change with the land, we don't own it, so it doesn't count towards the quota.
You did a great job on that, Susan, because under the SRS insurance, any water, you have to own the land that the water goes to get the points.
How do we equate that to dollars?
How do we, what do the points translate into? Well, it all house, how much the mortgage is, what's the outstanding balance and stuff like that. But right now in the town, I think we get I don't have flood insurance, so I think we're at 10, and we're hoping to get into 15. We can go up to 30% off the more points that we do. So adopting things like this at town meeting, right, this is a relatively inexpensive purchase. We're buying 38 acres of land for about $50,000. There's about $30,000 in soft costs, that's $15,000 for the third party to monitor it. There's closing costs, and some other stuff that wrap into that. But we were able to count that as flood capacity because those type of land, a marshland, is like a sponge. So when there's the tides, it sucks in from the river and it prevents flooding. That would happen, and Susan's correct. Whether we own it or not, that land would continue to do that. However, we can't count that unless you only can count stuff that you own.
So it
We
makes
lose
sense.
the buy-in,
Makes sense,
correct?
absolutely.
Yes, correct.
And also the benefit gate, because I was looking at it and somebody, and they, looking at you when I explained, and they thought, well, if the town owns it, there seemed to be a complaint about people canoeing and coming out,
You can still do all of that. I know
So,
the gentleman,
but they.
he calls all the time.
Like curtail.
No.
Okay, I mean, I didn't know, I mean, that was.
No, anything recreation, you can do anything other than build permanent structures.
That was their interpretation, I don't know. I mean,
He
So
calls,
there's access then, for any recreation.
Yeah.
Well, actually, there would be no intent to change any current access.
right,
But
we're not
so
gonna
there
build
would be no
anything.
intent to add additional access.
But
That may come up, but I knew nothing about it.
Yeah, but
We're changing the
people
ownership.
can,
I know.
Yeah.
but I'm-
people can walk across it if they want. We make it convenient for people to launch boats and canoes in other areas, but people do go down to that area and, especially a lot of young people will take their kayaks down and want into the water. None of that, police aren't gonna go down and stop people from doing that. We're just not gonna, to Susan's point, we wouldn't go there and we wouldn't build a launch ramp, we wouldn't build a pier, we wouldn't build any other type of
I
structure.
said nothing, I just was, I don't know.
So the points then, that lowers the rates for the entire town.
Well, we get the points, that's correct. So as the points go up cumulatively, then we would go to the next category, whether it's, say, 15 to 20.
So as our points start to go up, people that have flood insurance start to see their rates go down.
Yeah, because right now, I think everyone gets a 10%, and then I think we're going into 15%.
That's great.
I'm just curious if, as the owner of the marsh, would they have any reluctance to sell because they?
No, they already sold, they sold, depending on town meeting paying for it, it's also the
No, I mean,
PNS.
I'm just curious as to, if I was the homeowner, I had all this marsh.
It's not buildable.
No, would that go against my own personal pleasure?
No. Because it's not, the town is the one that gets the reduction, because you buy it through, Joe Rossi's really the expert, but Joe comes to enough of our department head meetings, we do check-offs, so we have Joe put together a very elaborate, we have the state in and we set priorities, different things that have to be accomplished, like for instance, something as simple as putting those big orange signs that light up that we traffic in during a storm, reminding people to put out their sandbags, reminding people to move their cars out of the prone flood area. We get points for that. Putting radio messages on, reminding people to bring in their stuff during storms so that there's no property damage. All of that adds up cumulatively to the points. And the more different things you do, buying land like that to add to it, there's a whole bunch of construction stuff that we can do. We'll get into, as we go down the road. But I think the more you can do, the more cost-effective the insurance is for the residents.
So ultimately, it does benefit the homeowner because the rates will go down if you have,
If we achieve a certain
the
point.
higher, yeah. So,
And the property value, if the value is even 80,000, like the tax income that the state would be forfeiting is minimal compared to what the number of residents that would get the benefit. I mean, not 100% of the residents get the benefit of that, but
But the people that have flood insurance, yeah, and that's important. Flood insurance rates.
Move it as written.
Second. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? All right, Article 30.
I move it as written. This is just mitigation, but most of the mitigation is the development of Rockland Road ball fields and the Boys and Girls Club facility. Town roads.
Ready, second on that? Any further discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? Article 31.
I move it as written.
Any discussion?
Who was the second?
Need a second?
Second.
We were told in the interpretation that this would save us money for insurance.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
Oh, okay.
I'm just curious, I'm trying to understand this out of
Mike, is this NFIP, CRS, is that the same?
That's the insurance, yeah.
The same
So
as
this is
before?
adopted, right, so it says 40% of the Marshfield structures on a special flood hazard area, which is an A or B flood zone. And it says about 700 million out of the 2 billion of Marshfield building value is at risk in the SFHA. This article formalizes what is already required into the town of Marshfield floodplain bylaw, 780 CMR Mass Building Code, states that the area that is enclosed, which includes crawl spaces, attached garages, full-story areas under elevated buildings, and other enclosures, shall be used solely for parking of vehicles, building access, or storage. So a good example of this, and I'm not an expert, but sitting in on the meetings, if you go into Brant Rock and you look at any of the buildings that are on stilts, if you notice, some people are putting up some temporary walls. You're not supposed to have that because the whole intent in flood-prone area, in these A or V zone areas, the water's supposed to go underneath the building. When you have solid foundational walls, it diverts the water and it makes massive cuts, and it ends up doing more damage. So the intent of this article is to restrict things like that happening, allow, but people can park their car under there, they can store some stuff. It's,
People grandfathered in, if they've actually done that.
I do not know that.
So this doesn't affect like the breakaway panels that people are putting,
No, breakaway panels are all right.
they're okay?
Yeah, because people can do them with breakaway panels, they can do, because the water will move the panel right out. Also, in some buildings, and like I said, I'm not an expert, but they have those vents where the water will go out and in.
Further discussion on Article 31, do you have a second on that?
Yes, someone said that.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? 32.
Okay, 32, I'll move to approve. It's basically just changing the selectmen to select board.
There's like a few of that, right? So would you?
And we'll do it.
Second, Ryan, okay. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? 33. Abstained.
Same thing, just worded.
All right. Further second? All seconded. Further discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? Article 34. And this is what the board.
This is home rule petition to change it, move it over.
Second.
All those second, discussion, seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 35.
I move it as written. tax rate or utility rates.
Do we have a second? Sorry, second, go ahead. So this is not, when we did this, it was like, okay, they go into where the DPW is now, it's gonna save us $3 million. So this is not that $3 million back plus 1.8, right?
No,
It's just 1.8, so we're still 1.2 under roughly?
No, so I'll explain from the beginning. So the overall project, so in November of 2019, town meeting approved a $49.9 million debt exclusion. When we went out to market, because of our great bond rating, it was 2 cents on the dollar. So we're saving $13 million on the interest rate over 30 years, plus an additional $4.5 million on bond premium from the note itself. When you add those together, we save $17.5 million. What does that mean for a person? How do they recognize the savings? Well, if you're in a $450,000 home over the 30-year note, because the debt exclusion is the term of the note, that person will save $1,000 over the 30 years. So there is a $17.5 million savings overall on the project. The DPW, when they went out to bid, they've made a couple of changes. There was different superintendents, everyone, wanted different things. As everyone that's out there building now, cost of construction gone up dramatically. We are finishing the senior center. Senior center substantial completion will be October 26th. The police station substantial completion will be March 26th, I believe. Something like that. DPW, if this article is passed, this is to close the shortfall. All buildings are competitive bid. We went out, they did add alternates, they wanted some add alternates, they bid it that way, so as the money comes in, they can decide, they get the basics, or they're able to add on depending on how much money is there. They've had to, like I said, they've had to change the building, so by the time they went out, the market's very high, the cost of goods are very high. They also had some other challenges that weren't necessarily their own. That was, the building was torn down so that they could build the police station. And, the building that was purchased for them to, begin their new life, had to be rehabbed, to meet it to the standards, but it didn't fit everybody, and that's why they needed the second building. And they had to do temporary rental storages for people that make the signs, for the cemetery trees and greens people, because not everyone fits, so they're renting units, they're renting bathrooms. So recognizing those costs, that's why the selectmen supported giving the $500,000 in free cash to cover those additional rentals. The other pieces of the project that they want, which are the add-ons, have to be covered by retained earnings. So, as the chairman mentioned, there's no cost to the bottom line. Mr. Polanski stated correctly that we wouldn't be re-taxing people on this, so the $500,000 is free cash, the other comes from retained earnings, and the DPW will move things around. Some of the stuff that they would have to pay for, if you see in the article, it's $589,500 from water retained earnings, $458,500 from wastewater, $262,000 from solid waste retained earnings. They spelled out, the DPW, how they want the money coming out of their retained earnings. On the stuff that comes out of water, we're going to work with them and use ARPA funds, because ARPA funds can be used for anything with water. So they'll either delay some projects or we'll work with them and pay. But the bottom line is this money is already in the retained earnings, so it doesn't affect the bottom line and it doesn't pinch the rate base.
Okay, here's my question. So the number for the DPW bond was X, right? And then because we were going to move to where it is currently now, right, it was X minus $3 million. So the only idea behind moving there was to we saved $3 million back.
Well, let's get that X number. So of the
I don't think
$49.9
there's-
million in 2019, how many million was the DPW?
I want to say 18,650 is what they were allotted. That's 20,650,000 was the police, 8 million was the senior center, and 3.5. I think that should add up to 49.9.
That sounds right. I remember it at 18 million.
That's off the top of my head, so I
Yeah.
apologize.
Yeah, sorry, I don't want to hold you to it.
So then we bought that building, I believe, for $4.75 million. 900,000 to bring it up to code, you had to bring it up to
How
code.
much, Mike, I'm sorry?
I think it was 4.75,
4.75, and then how much to rehab?
900,000. And it had to be rehabbed to bring it up to code, so there had to be ADA requirements. They had a, which was really weird for private sector, they had a heating system. There was an open flame above, you know, cardboard panels like this. Yeah, not something I would be ever safe in. So we had to redo the heating system, we had to replace some window panels, and we had to replace painted, carpeted, cleaned.
And that was 900, okay.
None of the
All right,
So
so,
all of that is still under 6 million. Right, 4.75 plus.
Yeah, so then all their rental charges, remember, as they go, everything ticks down, so they've expended a lot. I think when they went out to bid, they had shy under 10 million available. So, so that would make them 1,810,000 shy of what they needed. Selectmen won't sign anything unless the money has to be there before the selectmen. So we went out, we did a competitive bid, a contractors has, there is a lowest, most qualified bidder. We've asked all of the bidders to hold their, they have to hold their bid for 30 additional days until the
So
19th.
town meeting.
Yeah, till 9, so, like I said to the moderator, that they'll have to advance this question because the selectmen would have to sign by the 19th, so.
all right, so, I just want to get back to my question, right? So 18,650, so we're told we're saving $3 million by going there, right? So which brings it down to 15,650. And so you're asking for 1.8, are you asking for 1.8 from 15,650 plus 1.8? Or are you saying we're back to the 18,650 and now we need another 1.8 on top of that to make it like $20 million?
The whole thing was 18,650, less the cost of buying that building, less the cost of rehab, less the cost of the short-term rentals of all of the equipment that they've had to rent, less the cost of any of the ground prep stuff that they did. The shortfall between what was left to what the bid came in puts them at 1,810,000 short.
So they had it to the project.
Yeah.
So,
And
From the
your
18 million.
question,
The 18
what you just explained to me, we started at 18,
650.
18,650.
went down to about 10, we spent, need another 1.8. So this project is now 19.8.
That's correct.
All right, but when we moved there, and we voted on moving there, it was gonna save us $3 million, so that's roughly a $5 million.
That's correct. That would have been if the economy stayed exactly the way it was then.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not all lumber, right? I mean, that's.
Lumber, steel,
but
construction.
But if police and senior are within budget, then how is the DPW $5 million more?
Yeah,
Because
the body-
they rented all of that, they had to rent all that stuff. We purchased the building had to be rehabbed.
But we did that, and that's why we said
Yeah, did we
we're
not
gonna do that to
anticipate
save
that?
$3 million. And now, that's like $5 million, is a lot of money. That's
We didn't anticipate COVID and all the problems.
No.
No, did we
Correct.
anticipate the rental property that we would need in the interim while the building was brought up to code? Or was that not foreseen?
No, that was
when we did
foreseen too.
feasibility to
Yeah,
change
I
to
mean,
the
right now,
purchase?
construction costs are going up 6 to 10% per year.
But the bottom.
Well, you're talking about
bottom line
rental
is-
costs.
No.
I hear what you're saying.
Construction
Bottom line is
costs.
we saved $3 million on this project. This project didn't, that $3 million got gobbled up in the economy.
Correct.
Cost another 1.
That is correct.
Right, which is fine.
So fine.
But we saved
But that's a-
17.5 million.
But that's a clinical study of one, but if you're building a police station in a senior center and those numbers come in with the numbers that they said that they wanted, then there's $5 million. Like, I mean, a close friend of mine, when this happened, I said, hey, we're saving $3 million. He goes, I don't like the look of it. And I said, well, we're gonna save $3 million, so now I've gotta go back to him and say, we didn't save 3, it cost us another 2 on top of that. So it's a $5 million
But
swing.
there is an additional money coming from the taxpayers. It's 500 from free cash and the retained earnings. Retained earnings come from free cash also. They get their retained earnings, so I mean.
Right,
it's
but that
a
money
pretty-
can be spent for other projects.
The message here is, this project is a $20 million project. He said it was going to
No, he said it was gonna be 18,650.
Right, right.
And then
The
we-
reason
So
that
in
we're
reality,
there,
it's 18,650 plus 1.8110.
yeah, but you have to go back to.
The 3 million was never, we said potentially there could be a $3 million.
Well, that's what people voted on.
Yeah,
They saved
that's
$3 million.
right. Right.
I mean, as a
If
taxpayer.
people vote
I-
no, there's no DPW.
That's a ridiculous statement, Mr. Maresco.
Well, no, but if
I'm
people,
sorry.
but if people.
There is a DPW.
No, but that is the reality, there is no DPW building. There would be no, the selectmen will not sign the contract if the money's not there, that's a reality. And also, it's a legal argument that they cannot sign if the funds are not secured when they sign the contract.
Well, it seems like the police station, the senior center will manage very, very well. And, you know,
They've changed their design a number of times, twice anyways.
Well, why?
And if they kept going, you know, there was a former superintendent, Mr. Patterson, who had his own view, then Tom had his view, and then the economy, COVID, they had to keep downsizing. Every time you go and downsize, it's not simply reducing the size of the building, it's everything, from plumbing to electric to HVAC, everything has to be redrawn to scale. And those do add costs.
So will the Board of Public Works talk about this at the town meeting? Because the DPW doesn't report to you, which is part of the
That's
charter,
correct.
right?
Yeah, they will,
So
yeah.
it seems like it's on.
Yeah, I'm just giving you the big overview of the stuff that I
Right, but
They have to
this
sell
is,
it.
right, but this isn't, I mean, it's a $5 million swing. This, from what we voted on to move there, because now it's like, if we stayed where it was gonna be originally, would we be at 18,650, because it'd be a brand new building. Instead, we went there to save money, and then it's
25%.
But there's still, remember the square footage, so the new building that they're building is gonna be 28 and 12 is 40. Originally, their very first rendition was like close to 60. So they have kept reducing the size of the footprint. In fairness, I have to tell you that they have reduced the footprint.
So,
for space.
Right, so the original plan that I believe we paid $600,000 for, that was
650.
originally voted on,
Yep, 650, yeah.
right? So that plan would have given DPW everything that they wanted
so
Potentially correct, yes.
for the 18,
650. So now we have a
In
third
2019.
left for
Yep.
another 1.8.
and they made a conscious decision to come to town meeting and ask, by the way, that was an override vote? That
No.
budget was that was a budget override?
No, debt exclusion. We didn't do any overrides. Overrides are forever. Debt exclusions are for the term of the note. So it's a debt exclusion. That 49.9 was a debt exclusion for 30 years.
It's a payment to go down.
Each year payment goes
Thank
down.
you for clarifying.
It'll
Yeah, no,
disappear.
Those are always the best kind, debt exclusion.
It's just it's a little tough to swallow and reduce the project size by 30%, and cost like $5 million.
Can you get this in the market?
But his point is, we got two other projects going on.
I still, that's a $5 million, that's what's, I mean, I just don't like the way that whole thing is managed. I mean, I'm still a taxpayer in town.
I take issue with saying that
one-third
this
less.
doesn't cost the taxpayers anything. It costs the taxpayers an additional $1.8 million. The fact that we have the money in retained earnings means we don't have to borrow more to pay for this. But this money that is in retained earnings right now could be paid for a whole host of other projects that are going to come in the spring and say, we would like to do these projects that this 1.8 million could be paying for, that we will then probably have to borrow for to pay for.
Well, it's a reduction in services in what we can do. You're losing that. You're right. This building, the way I see it, I mean, we're not here all the time, is because we had to wait and COVID came in, it changed the economy drastically. I mean,
They were the last to get out of the gate, so that's
Yeah.
correct.
you know, and supplies are going way up. In my business, the cargo ships are killing us. We can't get them unloaded fast enough. There's so many out of stocks, not just my company, every company. Go to the supermarket, they're out of stuff. I mean, you can't buy cars, you can't get the supplies.
We couldn't get the roofing materials for the police station. We had to do a change to buy some protective material to put on there into the roofing shingles, and it was a special process that was engineered to go with the roofing shingles, and it had to be, the system was designed to be able to carry the extra, you get extra insulation, and it was covered by the weight.
So DPW then, because they were the last project out of the gate, we had to wait.
So the economy was worse by the time they go to market.
What, 1.8 course, or is that
Yeah.
because of design?
Well, the design, they had, so they had to downsize. Every time you downsize, there was a cost, the architects, the engineers, the electrical people.
So the original
the money that we spent to the architects and engineers, that's just wasted, because we never.
Every time you change it, that's correct. Every time you downsize, there's a cost, correct? No one does stuff for
Yeah,
nothing.
the original
Well,
plan
I'm
on the
not saying
current
that.
site is,
I mean, obviously, we pay for something, and then we decide not to do it, and the whole idea we decided not to do it was that, you know, it's gonna save us a bunch of money. Instead, we get 1/3 less of what we thought we were gonna get for $1.8 million.
That's correct.
That's enough.
You can go to towns, you don't have to.
Well, I
and
understand.
so, so what does DPW have to forego if the 1.8 is not allocated?
The whole building.
The whole building.
Well, no, we own the whole building, we've bought
No,
the
no,
whole
the new
building, they
building.
do not have to
This is for
forego
the
the whole
new building.
building.
New
So,
building.
yeah,
New building.
but we bought that.
So this
building,
is
right?
the new building that they want for parking vehicles.
Oh, the
Everything.
new building.
Additional office space, correct.
So this
The-
doesn't impact their workspace, this is vehicle.
Well, it does,
parking
yeah, it does
essentially.
impact the workspace right now because the building, the first building that was bought is just phase one of what they needed to do. That was only 12,000, just about 12,000 square feet of space. So that's why they had to then rent the additional trailers to put their employees in. Water departments and trailers. I know the water, there are other departments, the sign people are in trailers, cemetery trees and greens are in trailers.
For office space, right?
For office
Okay.
space. They also, Susan, also they needed it for storage too, for all of their tools, their equipment, their parts to fix cars, tires, oil filters, fan belts, so a lot of the storage stuff. And they also had to have additional bathrooms because they had everyone down there. And, they don't have big bathrooms, so they had to have additional bathrooms also.
So did they prematurely evacuate the previous site so that the police station could start their work?
Well,
Whereas
they
if they
had
had
to.
stayed in the previous site until this site was
Well, if they
vacated?
stayed there, they probably would have built a little sooner. It's hard to say now.
I mean, wouldn't have had rental costs.
Wouldn't have had rental costs if they stayed there. You wouldn't have been able, in either case, you wouldn't have been able to build the police station without tearing down the barn because of the height of the building, the limitations with the wetlands that are around there. There were certain sections that the building could be situated, so it became very challenging. The police, if you remember correctly, did look at using the site across from Roach Brothers, that strip of land as you go in, on the right-hand side. They looked, that was town land. You would have had to cut all those trees down. You would have had to do a substantial amount of filling. If you look, that land goes down, it is high on the left-hand back corner, but in the front area, you would have had to do filling plus take all those trees down. So at the time, the police station went there, and then while this was all happening, that other building became available. And that was a site that they wanted to go to. Thought that was a great location. There was another site that had some challenges, and that was the Sullivan, that building, where the car replay. That would have been a good DPW, even though it's in a water protection. It probably could have been engineered. We weren't able to buy it because the other people bought it. But the only reason it would work for us is, we could have put a special drainage system and run everything through the on-site storage treatment plant that we have for the high school complex. So that would have been another location.
Forgive me because I don't recall this, but when we bought the building, did we know that we needed a second building?
Yes.
Phase?
Oh, yeah, they talked about it,
I feel like we talked.
because they needed at a minimum, they were looking for like 50, Sean really wanted to get everything, his plan was like 60,000 square foot building, with about probably 35,000 for garage space. We have a substantial amount, they do have a substantial amount of equipment.
So if this doesn't get voted in the continuing trailers, it should what Paul wants to trucks.
You throw money away.
Yeah, because we're waiting,
Yeah,
because we're still gonna have to
it's,
pay for all that.
it's rewarding.
I wanted to
It's
raise
just
it
another
up, they're gonna have
fault.
a downside, redesign.
What percentage?
I don't know what percentage we give them. But you can't get materials, you can't get labor, or the coal. And now companies are having trouble filling the pipe. You ain't getting help.
You know, if it was all by itself, I'd agree with you, but because we had the police station, and senior center, and they're doing fine, I gotta
Yeah,
go.
but is this run by the building committee or is it run by the DPW board project?
The project's run by PMA as the project manager.
I'm just saying for the town, wasn't there a building committee running?
There's a building committee that's.
That's running.
Well, building committee makes the decisions on what's presented by PMA. We have a
Sure.
private management company, owner's project manager, which is required under Mass General Laws, Chapter 149 for anything over $1.5 million. You have to, so PMA did both the police and the DPW. The senior center was done by P3, different oversight company.
What was the number that they spent on the renting and all of that, do you know that?
I don't.
No, that was.
I don't have a number for what they spent so far.
It does feel like they need to run an account, town meeting, right? Because if there's a $4.8 million differential, they need to explain the additional 1.8. What percentage relates to increased lumber steel cost? What percentage relates to this adjustment? And they don't have any of that. I don't know the history of it. It's what I'm hearing.
Well, we hope they have, because they have to, they're the
I
ones
mean,
that
it just,
sell the
it seems like
product.
it's, just have no idea.
This is one of those deals where even if we're wrong, we have no choice.
I know, you gotta make the best next decision, right?
All you
I
have to-
understand that, but like, you don't know whether that 1.8 could be low, it could still be effective, you just don't know.
I think prices are still going to go for a while.
They're going up as we speak right now.
Yeah, so many shortages. And I don't want to throw money at them. Over the years, I fought them tooth and nail on a lot of projects, but I don't think we have any control over this, unfortunately. You don't do it now, it's going to be more expensive, and we're still going to have to do it at some point.
Oh, I think you're right, but it's just, you know, it's $5 million for this.
That's it.
I mean, it's nice that we're saving, you know, $17 million in our bond ratings and all that, but, you know.
No, we're spending $5 million.
Yeah, we're not saving.
Savings money, you kind of.
No, I want to be very clear about that because I will have to step in on this. There is a actual $17.5 million savings that could be looked at. That's the one thing I'm sure of. Anything else, there are costs. I mean, you know, this project's going to cost $1,810,000 more than what's available right this second.
But this, hear that side, you're gonna have 3 buildings done at about the same time, completed, instead of staggered.
And a seawall.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
And this,
they're all gonna be done.
and this will not cost the taxpayers any additional.
Well, I mean, it's, you know,
It's gonna cost 1.8 million more.
it's going to cost
Yeah,
1.8
we're just gonna have to
million.
borrow.
We're just not
Right.
taxing them, we're not borrowing them.
Right, that's what.
It's from free cash,
Yep.
It's
which
money
is
you
an
won't,
oxymoron because there's no such
it's
thing
money
as.
you won't get for something else.
Right. But it's
We have
being,
a
No, I
million bucks.
understand that,
Yeah.
I totally understand that.
You're spending $1 million, say, to go forward, instead of $1 million to spend on us and what we want to do with it. That's the problem.
but how they're being helped too, to your point, Sherry, how they're being helped is, you know, we'll use some ARPA funds, which we have available for water-related projects. So some of the stuff that's coming out of their water retained earnings, they're committing $589,500. So projects that they would have done, we'll be able to work with them, like the SCADA system that they want to update, water mains, things like that. You know, once we get back from bond council, the ARPA, you're able to use those federal funds for water-related projects.
On that 17 million in savings, that's all, I think, just the bond.
Correct. Interest.
I guess I don't understand the number, but the total project's 18 million, I think it's saved
17.5 million is what we saved over 30 years in the note of 2%.
It's 49.
49.9.
You don't really see it, you're just not spending any extra money.
Correct.
So if you refinance your house and you're not paying 5%, you get it down to 3%, you really don't see it, but your house might be paid off in next years.
Yeah, I got you.
It's- I mean, it's still
We
money.
did really well, it was 2 cents on the dollar
Yeah.
for every dollar borrowed.
So it was less of an increase, not,
Well,
It's an
nothing's free.
not, yeah.
It's not, it's an increase. You're still saving money, but it's an increase. You're spending money you didn't think you were going to
So
spend.
that's overall for all the projects.
All from including seawalls, yeah.
That's
everything.
all projects. So that 49.
That is correct.
The unfortunate part about this, that the clock is ticking, no matter what we do. I mean, I see it every day, well, it's costing more money to do things, you can't even get supplies. My wife's trying to get some work done on my house, on one of my items, and they don't fix stuff anymore because they can't get help. This company. So you see it,
I see it all the time, and I know it, and that's why I feel like it's a.
It's not.
conundrum.
you know it's more money.
We can run over it.
We're good, I don't know what's up.
what would be the meaning of an abstention vote for this article? If somebody chose to abstain from voting on this article,
If there's more people voting one way or the other, the abstention is part of the vote when it goes by itself. So I'd say 9 people if this board is full. You need 5 members to be a quorum. The majority is 1. So if everybody abstained and the chairman decided to vote for it, it would pass. To help you. It's a quorum is the start of the meeting. It's not how you vote.
Does it make sense to table it and just say, this is good on this? I don't know.
I think the numbers are going to change.
No.
I think what we're kind of looking for.
If you send me what you're looking for specifically, what I'm hearing is you want to know how much to spend from day one on rental charges.
Yeah,
$20.5 million.
Yeah, I mean, we had this thing, I think it was Boeing DPW, right? And had all the drawings, and it was like, that's what we were getting, and now we're not getting. There's just less space.
You know, actually, that's a good point. They should have a prepared document of how the money's being spent from day one. That would probably solve all this discussion and whatever's going to happen in town meeting.
You can read it, town meeting.
I would feel good if we're gonna vote for this, I would feel good that,
You do it.
yeah.
Let's get some money from treasurer accounting on this, we'll table this one as well, so we're gonna table this one. All right, so we've got 8, 9, 17, 20, 21, 35. Do we want to vote on these before the town meeting, or do we want to set up another meeting?
We have 2 items that we need to come back and discuss.
Right, 8, 9, 17, 21, 35. That's what I'm going to do. At 6.
I would have a meeting.
Another meeting?
I think it was
Wait, before we do
See if I
something,
get it wrong.
wait, no.
When I saw you signed up in lunch, I thought you were going to.
I thought he was having snacks too.
Tom, can we do it?
Tom,
Yeah.
okay, going forward,
Yeah.
the meeting's the 18th. You got a 4-day week next week, Tuesday off. So you're going to be able to get all the information by Tuesday or Wednesday next week?
So right now is the treasurer collector's out on paid administrative leave, and we don't have an accountant.
Aren't there prepared budgets that they already have and requesting at one point?
Yeah, if you send me the questions you want answered, we'll get you those answers.
In this case, I don't think you have a choice, as I'm telling you.
Because people are saying, you want to know how much they spent on
Right.
rentals.
It was a detailed, they should be able to do that.
Just to have an understanding, a better understanding of what,
Yeah.
not to,
Do we want to list the questions here and then?
that's a good idea.
My question would be, I'd like to know what are the costs of the engineers? Downsize.
Twice.
Why don't we do this? Because it would just be like spitballing questions now. Why don't we get it to me
Think
by
about it and just send it to me.
end of business day tomorrow. Email me the questions, I'll compile them, and I'll forward them on.
Can I, what was presented to the Board of Selectmen? What data was presented?
Just what I went over, that's where I got all the info.
I'm not sure.
I think that would help.
I'm sure we can actually meet.
Yeah, you guys can request it to come.
You get one.
Yeah, I think it would be great.
Mondays and
Tom
holidays.
doesn't work for me,
Next
but you
week.
could request it,
We
Tom.
can request, can we
What's that?
ask?
I said, Tom doesn't work for me, but you could request Tom to come.
No daycare.
Daycare, yeah, no, sure.
Why don't you just call a meeting at 6 o'clock? And night at town meeting. And have, and have a prepared sheet for us of some sort.
We'll meet, town meeting, we'll meet like an hour early. That way we don't have to,
Because you only have next week.
yeah. All right.
Well, if we get some answers, we can just email them.
Yeah.
What's the
If we
19th?
have answers, we should
18.
just do a
Yeah,
quick
okay.
Zoom call.
In front of you,
I think we should.
in front of your board. You knew it was. No, he's asking when it was.
Next week. That's my opinion.
I mean, I,
Because they're gonna come to town meeting,
Well, this year.
Set.
Make a decision.
Yeah, I gotta just, right now, my five, I'll think about it for the day. Right now, I'm thinking, can I think an hour before town meeting, because a lot of them are gonna be quick, but this one might be long. Is that all right, everybody?
Yeah, if I get information, I'll do it.
Yeah, sure. I move to adjourn. the
No,
meeting. No, I'm sorry, we did other stuff.
You have to reorganize, I know that.
Okay,
Because technically, we don't have all these people that are offices.
well, it's still May, right? Or is it?
No, one of them's gone. You're
What did I
right.
say? I said there's still me. And then you said one.
There's a raccoon outside.
Question was me, not Maureen.
Right, but she's
A
listed
raccoon.
as one of the offices and she's not on the board.
Okay, all right.
So
So,
you just have to move to reorganize.
okay, I move to reorganize.
I'll second it.
All right, so we got a second on that.
Open up nominations.
Open up nominations. So I'll finish that.
Yes.
Okay.
He's on his way out, I have one question.
Yeah,
Go
go ahead.
Who do I talk to get the website? Who is it?
Which one?
I've been on this thing over.
Department heads are supposed to update some.
What's that? I know. I put it on the
The advisory board one is it?
Trying to help you.
I knew it over here.
Okay, I'll make sure.
I just, I wanted, the website said it's at the state, and my phone isn't working here.
Usually the chair sends an email to my team to update.
I can't get on my website.
Okay.
I went out to eat. You took it out to eat.
Yep.
Okay. I nominate Tom Collins for chairman.
Second.
Accept.
I do say, does anybody else want to be chair? Mark? Okay. All right, all those in favor of me being chair, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Okay, I'm the chair. Okay, we need a new vice chair.
I'll nominate Don.
Did you join? Did you join? Oh, you would express some interest, or at least those words came out of your mouth. So, which is,
Yes.
okay,
I take that back.
Okay.
Unless you want it.
Well, I'm very happy being
okay.
listed.
Okay, nominate Paul Christopher as the vice chair.
Second.
All right, anybody else? All right, all those in favor of Paul as vice chair, saying
Aye.
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 Opposed, abstained. Now we have, we still have a secretary in Sherry, a clerk. Right there.
I'll nominate Sherry.
All right, I second it. All right,
Sure.
okay. All those in favor of Sherry as clerk?
Any other
Any other
nominations?
nominations?
Gotta make it legal.
Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor of Sherry being the clerk, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, okay.
Now legit.
All right, that was,
But it's possible two people could run for something if you don't give them an
let's look
opportunity.
at this. Okay, so we have, what was on the agenda? We have this, there's no budget transfers, this is it. Okay, I move to adjourn the meeting,
So it's gonna be 6 o'clock on Monday?
6 o'clock on Monday, unless something else happens, but 6 o'clock on Monday the 18th. Yes, all right?
Anytime.
Thank you, everybody adjourn, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained,